In Genesis chapters 42 through 44, Jesus tests the brothers who betrayed him. Having risen to rule his master's house after being unjustly thrown into slavery, then to rule his prison, having been unjustly thrown into jail, Joseph finally rises from his jail to rule all of Egypt, proving that you certainly cannot keep a good man or his ever-persistent God down. After 7 years of plenty, during which Joseph stored up grain, the first 2 of 7 years of famine bring not only Egypt, but also Canaan to the brink of starvation. And so Jacob sends his sons to Egypt to buy grain. Well, not all his sons. He keeps Benjamin back, his new favorite since the supposed death of Joseph, Benjamin's full brother by the beloved Rachel. The 10 brothers travel to Egypt and appear before Joseph to purchase grain. When they meet him, the first thing they do is bow down to him in obvious fulfillment of his youthful dream that made the brothers so resent him. Their sheaves of wheat bowing down to his sheaf. Divinely apt symbolism, I would say, given the circumstances. Joseph recognizes his brothers immediately, but they do not recognize him, and he chooses not to reveal himself. Instead, he tests them. Some might say he toys with them. What are his motives? Revenge and retribution? Has he forgiven? Or does his forgiveness weigh in the balance of how they now comport themselves? His motives may indeed be mixed, but whatever Joseph's motives, God surely uses Joseph to test them, to determine whether they are suitable to carry out the promise, to be the community of the covenant, and the proper realization of God's promise to Abraham that many nations should spring from him. He speaks harshly to them. He accuses them of spying, of seeking to discover the nature of the situation in Egypt during the famine. They've come, he says, to see the nakedness of the land. They protest, of course. They're only honest, hungry men sent by their father to buy food for the family and their people. He interrogates them regarding their family. They reveal that they have a father and a younger brother who is very dear to their father. Purporting to be unconvinced, Joseph sends them to jail for 3 days. Thereafter, he calls them again and declares that they can prove their honesty by only one means, that they return home and bring their younger brother Benjamin back with them. And as security, Joseph will keep their brother Simeon as hostage. At this point, their consciences begin to speak. Among themselves they confirm, "In truth we are guilty concerning our brother. We saw the distress of his soul. When he begged, we did not listen. That is why this distress has come upon us." Joseph hears this confession. He is in their presence, and they assume he does not speak their language. Joseph turns away from them and weeps, whether with the anguish of memory or in joy that his brothers may have repented is not made clear from the text. And so he sends 9 brothers back with their sacks full of grain, but not before he has his steward surreptitiously place the money they paid for the grain back into their sacks. Upon returning to Jacob, they're shocked to find the money, and again they suspect an ominous divine intervention. What is this that God has done to us, they ask. But they also find that their father is unwilling to entrust them with Benjamin, so that they can return to rescue Simeon and prove their honesty to the ruler in Egypt. There is a deep irony of poetic justice in this. Jacob tells them, "You are leaving me childless. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more. And now you would take Benjamin? He won't do it." Their old lies to Jacob about their betrayal of Joseph have come full circle. Influenced by those lies, a mournful, fearful Jacob now stands in their way of proving their honesty and from rescuing a brother. They are not honest men. They've been jealous and disloyal to one brother already. Joseph knows it, but more importantly, God knows it. And true fear of God is starting to dawn on the brothers. God is in it. God is finding them out. Indeed, variations of the phrase "to find out" are used 8 times in the narrative. The famine continues, and soon their grain is gone. It becomes a matter of risking Benjamin or facing starvation. Finally, Judah, the 4th oldest brother, comes forward and pledges his eternal honor to guarantee Benjamin's safety. Jacob relents and agrees to send Benjamin with his brothers to buy more grain. The brothers are fearful and tentative upon their return. They immediately confess to Joseph's steward that their discovery of the money in their sacks. The brothers are fearful and tentative upon their return. They immediately confess to Joseph's steward their discovery of the money in their sacks, and they explain that they have returned with that money and have doubled it. The steward's response, no doubt dictated by Joseph, is entirely gracious and reassuring. "Do not be afraid. Your God and the God of your father put this treasure in your sacks for you. I received your money. What indeed is God doing with them?" They are also invited to meet Joseph and dine with him, but their guilt is now so stirred that they fear even this is a trap. Upon receiving them in his home, Joseph immediately sets about testing their jealousy. It was jealousy set them against him because he was Jacob's favorite. Do they still suffer from such jealousy? Joseph addresses Benjamin directly and asks God's blessing upon him, but not upon any of the other brothers. At this point, Joseph's emotions so overwhelm him that he leaves the room and goes to his own chamber to weep. But having dried his eyes, he returns and the feast starts. First, Joseph seats the brothers precisely in order of age, which amazes the brothers and lends an ear of divine presence to the scene, intervention by the God who is finding them out. Then Joseph, quite ostentatiously, gives Benjamin 5 times the amount of food that he gives the other brothers. Again, a son of Rachel is the favorite. But the brothers pass this test. They do not complain. They do not react. In fact, the English Standard Version says they drank and made merry with him. The NIV says they feasted and drank freely with him. These translations are somewhat euphemistic. The Hebrew is pretty clear that they got drunk. So they have now passed 2 tests. They appear to be honest and to have shed their jealousy. And we know that their consciences are speaking to them. But Joseph has yet another final test in store, which we'll address after you answer a few questions.